Hello, film members of the Mixed Story, or if you're new, subscribe. Today I'm going to be reacting to Watch Mojo's top 10 failed attempts at cinematic universes. So let's check this out. I'm guessing number one will be Dark Universe, and if it's not, it will definitely be in this list, because that one is the one that I can think of that had the most high caliber actors and the most money pumped into it so quickly. I mean, they even built out a goddamn part of their studio for it, and now that lays vacant.
Bad thing we can say about the MCU, it's that it led to this. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 cinematic universes that flopped. For this list, we'll be looking at studios' least successful attempts to create shared cinematic universes. Number 10, the X-Men Origins universe.
Together special team with special
That's
privileges.
true. They had planned an
The X-Men franchise, for all its successes, got messy on more than one occasion. One of Fox's biggest missteps came when it first tried to expand towards a larger universe. 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine explored the popular mutant's backstory before he joined the famous team of heroes. It was part of a planned series that would focus on individual mutants, and a Magneto origin story was meant to be next. Unfortunately, Wolverine was met with such contempt that the idea was scrapped altogether. Bits of this canceled project were eventually explored in X-Men First Class.
Let's just say I'm Frankenstein's monster.
Honestly, considering Wolverine featured a bland story, lackluster CGI, and a muted Deadpool, we can't say we're surprised this idea didn't get too far.
Wait, is that you?
Number 9, Men in Black, Jump Street.
This is a bit of a weird one, as both franchises are more or less successful.
But their proposed shared universe never got much further than the planning stages. After 22 Jump Street proved to be a hit, Sony expressed interest in making a third movie that crossed over with the Men in Black world.
I'll wing something.
I wanted this
Schmidt
to
and
happen.
Janko discovering the secret organization would have been comedic gold and could have simultaneously served to reboot the MIB series. Alice, through the Looking Glass director James Bobbin, even signed on to direct, proving this got further than the concept stage. Sadly, Sony seemingly couldn't make the conflicting tones come together cohesively.
Check, please.
Men in Black still got a spin-off, but a far more forgettable one.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, look right here.
Number 8, Hood. Get ready to hear us talk about Sony a lot. In 2014, the studio purchased a cinematic universe pitch based on Robin Hood and his merry men. The pitch, simply titled Hood, reportedly cost Sony $1 million.
Remember your place.
In addition to a movie focusing on the hero, the pitch included standalone ideas for Little John, Friar Tuck, and Will Scarlet.
So far, none of these have been made, and it appears less likely every time another studio revisits Sherwood Forest.
Lionsgate released a Robin Hood movie in 2018, which bombed. Disney will also be remaking their own version of Robin Hood soon. And Sony itself is currently developing a gritty spin-off focusing on Maid Marian after Robin Hood dies. This shared universe is DOA. Number 7, the Valiant Cinematic Universe.
He's unlike anything we've seen before.
It may be too early to declare this one dead, but it's not off to a good start. 2020's Bloodshot was a financial failure and poorly received by critics. Of course, the fact that its release coincided with a pandemic certainly didn't help. Regardless, Bloodshot was meant to begin a cinematic universe for other characters from Valiant Comics to step into. Sony initially planned at least 5 films, but the second movie, Harbinger, was purchased by Paramount in late 2019. Whether or not Harbinger will be a part of Bloodshot or begin its own universe is unknown. But with one of the biggest shared universes in comics, behind only Marvel and DC, it would be a shame if the VCU went so quietly. Number 6, Alien vs. Predator.
Before the current trend of shared universes, 20th Century Fox attempted to blend their two Alien franchises together.
The first AVP brought to us by Paul W.S. Anderson in 2004 was undone by forgettable human characters and bland action. Unfortunately, it made enough money to warrant a sequel. 2007's Requiem basically rehashed the action of the previous installment, just with more gore and a worse script.
Hey, people are dying.
I heard you could barely. I think it's
It barely made its budget back in the U.S., disappointing Fox. When Ridley Scott decided to revisit Alien, he wisely chose to keep the Predators out of it. And while neither property has truly returned to form, both are arguably better off.
Because the next Aliens, after that, the next movie after Prometheus had aliens in it.
Number 5, Ghostbusters.
So tell me, Dr. Heiss, is this for real?
Hell no.
The 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters was meant to be a fresh start, unconnected to the original movies. And Sony had big plans for it. Before release, a sequel was planned, and there were also rumors about a male-centric film starring Channing Tatum and Chris Pratt, with Avengers Endgame directors Joe and Anthony Russo at the helm. Then there were the ideas for animated TV series and films. However, Ghostbusters was poorly received and underperformed at the box office.
Let's go. Let's go. Oh, did you want to? Sorry, I'll let you. Next time.
The upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife from Jason Reitman proves that Sony refuses to let this franchise die. But the film will be connected to the original movies, not the 2016 reboot.
It has a gunner seat?
Number 4, King Arthur.
The Blacklegs are coming. When they get here, they're going to make an example out of you.
Tales from Camelot have been retold too many times to count. When Warner Brothers revisited Arthur's origin yet again with director Guy Ritchie in 2017, there was talk of bringing all the knights of the Round Table into the fold. Solo films for the origins of Lancelot and Merlin were discussed, though producer and co-writer Lionel Wigram stated they would have liked to reinvent each character. However, discussions are about as far as things went. Guy Ritchie's flashy modern style didn't mesh well with Arthur's world. This led to not only poor reviews, but also incredibly poor ticket sales. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword couldn't make its budget back, let alone launch a cinematic universe. Good thing Warner Brothers didn't get ahead of themselves.
You created me.
Number 3, The Dark Tower.
Oh god, what a disappointment this one was.
You're a gunslinger, right?
What a disappointment.
Adapting Stephen King's epic fantasy series, which itself is connected to most of the author's other works, was always going to be difficult. But Sony could have done much better than this. Featuring elements from several books, this 2017 flop was almost universally panned for being a boring mess. It naturally left things open for a sequel, although Sony wanted to expand to TV as well.
Why don't you come with me?
The plan was the origins of the Gunslinger, with the show itself also receiving spin-offs. However, Dark Tower performed abysmally. A TV series was still going to move ahead with Amazon Prime, but they passed on the pilot in January 2020. For now, this literary world will be staying on the pages.
Oh, dang.
We lost.
That would have been awesome.
Not while the tower still stands.
Number 2, The Amazing Spider-Man Universe.
I'm not going anywhere.
Sony has tried and failed with so many cinematic universes that we're beginning to feel bad for them. In order to compete with the Avengers, they announced in 2013 that they would be launching their own superpowered cinematic universe centered around the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Just make a good movie. If it does well, make another movie.
Did you tell the boy the truth about his father?
A 5-person writing team was created to oversee the direction of the universe. Projects like 2 Amazing Spider-Man sequels and Venom were greenlit, as was The Sinister Six, which was teased at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. However, the sequel was a box office low for Spider-Man, and critical response wasn't much kinder. Since then, Spider-Man has been brought into the MCU, while Sony is trying their hands at another Spider-Verse with Venom and the upcoming Morbius.
What's up, Doc?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest
see how
videos.
that goes.
You have the option to be
Make sure
notified for
subscribe to
occasional
Watch Mojo.
videos
Subscribe
or
to
all
us
of them.
as well.
If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings
Follow
and
this
switch on
for us as well.
notifications.
Hit the bell, all that
Number
good stuff.
1, The Dark
Helps out a
Universe.
lot.
Technically, Universal had the first shared cinematic
you know what?
universe.
I knew the Dark
Sadly,
Universe
the
was gonna be
studio can't seem to
number 1.
recapture that magic. Universal first tried to launch a shared world in 2014's poorly received Dracula Untold.
Let the games begin.
But what came next failed far more spectacularly. 2017's The Mummy tanked hard with critics and audiences, forcing Universal to cancel their plans. It originally intended to reboot a slew of classic monster movies and had Bill Condon set to direct Bride of Frankenstein. But the studio's hubris was its very expensive downfall.
My name is Jekyll. Dr. Henry Jekyll.
On the upside, at least the cancellation of the Dark Universe left us with a good Invisible Man movie.
Do you agree with our picks?
True. So, a few things I have to say. One, it's really sad that the Dark Universe didn't do better, because there was so much potential there. Then again, The Mummy was what it was, a hot mess of a movie. And they were trying to turn the monsters into what they aren't, which is like theme park movies, big budget, blockbuster, superhero-esque movies. That's not what these Universal monsters are. And you can clearly tell that they work better in smaller mediums. Like, the Invisible Man movie was fantastic. Or, like, well, even going back to the freaking black and white days, those weren't huge movies. Those were big for the time, but what made them great was that they were not huge, like, big explosions, running scenes, all this crap that shoved into their, and The Mummy with Tom Cruise. Like, I don't get why they were like, Universal Monsters, big budget movies. Like, where did you guys come up with that? The one thing I have to say about the Valiant universe, one is, I still feel like that could continue, even though Bloodshot wasn't a success. I think if they made another movie with a different superhero from the Valiant universe, and that one was, then you can make a second one of that, and then you can put Bloodshot as a cameo role into that, which might pump excitement for Bloodshot second one, you know? So Sony could do something like, Sony could do something like that if they wanted to. You know, like, the thing that, like, they were saying, Sony kept doing, like, honestly, I'm surprised they haven't even tried combining Goosebumps and Jumanji yet. Like, they're just constantly doing that. The reason why all these failed, every single one, is because they put the cart before the horse. And I'm surprised, maybe it's too soon, but I bet you can put the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe up there. I don't know how Scoob's doing, but critically and fan review-wise, including my own opinion, the movie wasn't good and was more of a cinematic universe builder than it was Scoob movie. So I'm guessing that's going to end up being on failed attempts of cinematic universes soon. The Dark Tower one is sad to me because Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey were so fantastic and are such great actors. My God, could you imagine if the movie was great? Oh, if the movie around them was as good as their acting, we would have had a great series of movies, I bet you already. Or at least getting made. That one's disappointing for sure because the story of the Dark Tower and all those consecutive books. I've talked to my friend who's read all the Stephen King books and tells me how they connect to all the different ideas and stuff that will weave to like it and Shining and have connections to all of it. That sounds freaking awesome. I don't know why Amazon passed on the show. That's disappointing. I didn't realize that. But maybe because they're pumping so much money into the Lord of the Rings show, which I have full faith in that it's going to be great. Tell me which one you knew, like, which ones were you disappointed failed, which ones you knew were going to fail. Like, I had a feeling that the Spider-Man one was going to die right when I saw that second movie. Like, I was like, it did. But yeah, comment down below. Tell me which ones you thought, like, you wanted to continue, which ones you thought were going to fail, which ones you're sad failed, which ones you would have liked to see at least one more go at. And please like, subscribe, share. Go subscribe to Watch Mojo if you haven't. They're a great YouTube channel. They're one of my favorites. Peace.